Pete, I'm ready. Scott, are you good?
I think so.
Yeah,
Okay.
oh, I see. We're going back.
You good, Scott?
Whenever you're ready, Pete.
Okay, I'm ready.
Recording in progress.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Welcome to the Williston Development Review Board meeting. Today is June 11th, 2024. My name is Pete Kelly, Chair of the DRB. Please silence your phones and devices. Zoom attendees, please stay muted until it's your turn to speak. For Zoom technical questions, contact the planning staff through Zoom chat. Let's begin by a roll call of DRB members in attendance this evening. Nate Andrews.
Here.
Paul Christensen. Lisa Braden Harder.
Here.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Scott
Hey.
Riley.
Yeah.
Dave Turner.
Here.
John Hemmelgarn.
Here.
And the chair is here. We have 6 in attendance, 1 absent. We do have a quorum. The following items are on tonight's public hearing. We've got DP 24-11, which is North Williston Cattle Company. DP 20-18.3, Ethan Allen Homes. And DP 24-20, Champlain Valley School District. The Development Review Board, the DRB, follows rules of procedure and conducts quasi-judicial proceedings, aka public hearings, like court, pursuant to Williston Unified Development Bylaw, WDB, Chapter 6 and Appendix A. The powers of the DRB are established in and limited by this bylaw, as well as state statute, and expounded upon by the staff reports for each public hearing application. As volunteer public officials, we are held to the standards of the Williston Volunteer Policy and the Williston Conflict of Interest Ordinance. For any public hearing item tonight, are there any members who wish to be excused on account of a conflict of interest?
I will be recused from the first hearing.
First hearing, so that's North Williston Cattle.
Yes.
Okay.
And Pete, I will be recusing myself on 20-18.3 Ethan Allen Homes as an abutting landowner.
Okay, thank you. Just make notes of that. Okay. And while we're doing that, I'm going to disclose on DP 24-20 Champlain Valley School District that the company that I work for, DEW Construction, does do work with the Champlain Valley School District. I do not deem it to be a conflict of interest in terms of judgment, and so I'm not going to recuse myself from that hearing. Before we begin tonight, I'd like to recognize John Hemmelgarn.
Oh, Jesus.
John has been this is John's last meeting. He's been a faithful DRB member for 10 years. And you bring a lot of expertise to the table. You're always prepared, John. The value to this board is going to be missed. And I'd like to personally thank you for your volunteer efforts on behalf of the town. Thank you very much.
Speech.
I'll second.
Yeah, we're not voting on that.
You afraid it won't pass?
I hope it doesn't. Thank you, Pete. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
those kind words.
Okay, first up is a public forum. This is an opportunity for people participating here in the building or by Zoom to address the board on matters not on tonight's agenda. If you have something to raise, please raise your hand here in the room or virtually raise your hand. Okay. Hearing none. We will segue into the public hearing. First up is DP 24-10. Would the applicant please come forward? Welcome. If you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Lorenzo and Mary Beth Whitcomb, 347 Fay Lane, Williston.
Welcome. Okay, staff goes next.
Thanks, Pete. This is a request for a discretionary permit for a boundary line adjustment to convey 0.51 acres from North Williston Cattle Co. to Fay Lane LLC and subdivide the remaining 10.49 acres into 2 lots. Lot 1 will be 2.01 acres, and it will contain the existing single-family dwelling at 347 Fay Lane. Lot 2 will be 8.48 acres, and it will contain the existing duplex and single-family home, as well as the concrete forage bunker, which is an agricultural structure. Those properties are located at 221 and 247 Fay Lane. I do want to note that Lot 2 will remain in contiguous ownership with the land on the north side of Fay Lane, well over 100 acres, that has the dairy barn and is owned by North Williston Cattle Co. as well. In terms of tonight's hearing, staff recommends that you take testimony and close the hearing, deliberate, and approve with a set of conditions as drafted. This is the first time the DRB is reviewing the discretionary permit. Pre-application took place on December 12th, 2023. Conservation Commission and Historic Design Committee were not required to comment on this application. Public Works and Fire did not have any comments on the discretionary permit. The fire comments from pre-application have been addressed by the applicant. There are several recommendations at pre-application. These have either been met by the applicant or are no longer applicable. For example, they did get their water and wastewater permit, and some of the bylaw requirements about open space and home sites are no longer applicable. The Agricultural Rural Residential Zoning District standard conditions apply. It complies with the dimensional standards for side yard and front yard setbacks. No new structures are proposed. A note here on open space development. So this does comply as proposed. A component of this application is a boundary line adjustment. A parcel that's larger than 10.5 acres is required to set aside 75% as open space. That was proving challenging for this lot because we're dealing with 2.5, 3 existing home sites with the single family home, the duplex, and the other single family home, and all of their accessory structures and lawns, as well as the agricultural structures as well. So the property owner is doing a boundary line adjustment to bring the land below the 10.5 acre threshold, where that third lot is no longer required. There is no prohibition in the bylaw on doing this BLA to avoid the open space separate lot requirement, and it has been done in the past, DP 2402 Willard. I will note on that different application, they piecemealed it. They did the boundary line adjustment administratively before filing the discretionary permit. In this instance, we recommended combining it into one application, both simplicity for them working with their surveyor, but as well as transparency that it's all bundled into one application. So again, it complies as proposed with the development standards of Chapter 31. What follows are standard conditions as well for access. No new access is proposed. They have applied for their state water and wastewater permit. The land area complies with the minimum area per dwelling of 1.84 acres per dwelling. And what follows are draft findings of fact, conclusions of law, and conditions of approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. So 2 questions. One is, do you have any anything to add to Emily's staff report? And then two, do you have any concerns over the proposed conditions of approval?
Well, I don't think we have any concerns. The only thing I would add is that this is part of transferring the total farm from the generation of myself and my brother to my brother's son, my nephew. And this is part of this. That's a long, ongoing thing, but this is one step in that process.
Yeah.
And so.
And we do have the wastewater treatment that we just got back from the town that's been recorded in the land records.
Okay, great. Okay, DRV members, questions?
No questions.
No, it was pretty clear what's
Yeah.
going on, and
Scott? Lisa?
No questions.
Okay, great. Members of the audience, any questions? Okay, we're gonna close DP 24-10 at 7:11. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is DP 20-18.3. This is for Summer Field, sometimes known as Catamount Golf at 1400 Mountain View Road. Would the applicant come forward, please? Chris and Brian, would you please introduce yourself and state your address for the record, please?
Christopher Senesac, 86 Ethan Allen Drive, South Burlington, Vermont. Brian Courier, O'Leary Burke Civil Associates, 13 Corporate Drive, Essex, Vermont.
Thank you. Staff goes next.
Thanks, Pete. This is a discretionary permit request to designate March 2024 growth management allocation, 24.5 TUE, on the phasing plan. This is the last request of this nature for Somerville. All units have been allocated. Staff recommendation tonight is that you take testimony and close the hearing, deliberate, and approve the decision with draft conditions as shown below. This project does have quite a lengthy history. Most recently was March 2024, where the project scored 70 points and was allocated 24.5 DUE, all market rate allocation. And that was the last amount of allocation that was needed for all homes in this project to have their growth management allocation. Conservation Commission and Historic and Design Advisory Committee were not required to comment on this application. Public Works and Fire did not have any comments. 2 comments were received at the time of mail out. No further comments were received up until this point from the Coyote Run Homeowners Association. Do you want to go over those now?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first comment letter is regarding the abutters list. The abutters list might have been outdated in terms of who the HOA contact was. So a reminder to the applicant to use the most current grand list when preparing an abutters list. The second comment letter is about the validity of the offer of irrevocable dedication for the road access onto Raven Circle. Where Summerfield is going to connect onto Raven Circle is a piece of land that goes through the Coyote Run Association neighborhood area. Staff notes that tonight's application is purely related to the growth management allocation phasing, and no changes to the site layout or platting are proposed. Summerfield has an approved discretionary permit as well as final plan civil set. And the HOA questions are beyond the authority of the DRB for this evening. So the DRB scope per chapter 6.10 is limited to the application tonight, basically green lighting phasing. And any of these questions about the validity of an offer, who should have signed off on what, that type of thing, those are all separate matters that the DRB does not need to weigh in on. Turning to project elements, so in terms of the residential zoning district, standard conditions, everything complies as proposed. Nothing is being changed about the site layout, unit count, density, all of that is staying exactly the same. In terms of Chapter 11, now known as including affordable homes and growth management, the project received all its allocation. I do note that when we go to the findings of fact, there are a couple specific findings of fact that are carried over from that growth management approval. So because growth management chapter was amended significantly in October 2023, we created this timeline of scoring and allocation, as well as noting the affordable commitments that apply to this project, because some of the affordability requirements in Chapter 11 changed. This project has some vesting because its approvals were back in 2022. So these are the exact same findings of fact as what the DRB saw as at growth management in March. And conclusions of law and conditions of approval are all standard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Brian and Chris, do you have anything to supplement Emily's staff report? That's question one. And question two is, do you have any concerns over the proposed conditions of approval?
No, we don't have anything to add, and the conditions of approval are acceptable.
Okay, thank you. DRB members, questions?
No, none from me.
Nathan? Nate?
No questions.
No? Scott?
No.
Lisa?
No, I'm all set.
Okay. Members of the audience, any questions? If so, please come forward to the table identified as public. Anybody in Zoom, raise your virtual hand. I don't believe there's anybody there.
No raised hands. We do have members of the public on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We're gonna close DP 20-18.3 at 7:17. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is DP 24-20 Champlain Valley School District. Is Chris Gerard here?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, hey, Chris. I didn't see you there.
How you doing?
Good. Could you please state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Chris Giard. I'm the Director of Facilities, and my address is 5420 Shelburne Road in Shelburne, Vermont.
Thank you, Chris. Staff goes next.
Thank you, Pete. This is a discretionary permit application request from Champlain Valley School District for stormwater improvements at 497 Talcott Road in the residential zoning district. The existing 25-acre parcel is developed with the Allen Brook School. The purpose of this project is to retrofit an existing stormwater system to meet the current stormwater treatment standards as part of the 3-acre stormwater permit for the state. The project requires a discretionary permit because it involves more than 1,000 square feet of site work. Staff recommends the DRB take testimony, close the hearing, and deliberate tonight. The DRB should discuss the recreation path trail closure with the applicant, see condition 21, and approve the application. Project history. School was originally proposed in 1995. There have been some small modifications, including some modular classrooms that the DRB saw recently. For comments from departments, both the Public Works Department and the Fire Department commented that they have no comments. And there were no public comments received at the time of mail out. The school district enjoys a partial exemption from zoning. In this case, the school is not requesting anything that basically is outside of our zoning regulations, so it's not applied. It's a moot point. For the zoning district, complies. The site is in compliance with all dimensional standards and no changes are proposed. No outdoor sales or storage are proposed. Chapter 13, compliance is anticipated here. The applicant is proposing site work on both the north and south sides of the recreation path that connects Talcott Road to the Allenbrook School. The applicant has indicated the path will be closed at times during construction, but that the path will remain open during school pickup and drop-off times. Chapter 13 does require safe bicycle and pedestrian access. Staff is recommending that the DRB discuss this recreational path trail closure with the applicant. Staff is recommending that the applicant provide temporary signage when the path is closed to ensure safe access, and that final plans include some sort of narrative describing how safe access will be maintained. For on-site infrastructure, this also complies as proposed. Chapter 15 requires that stormwater collection and treatment be provided. The applicant is proposing improvements that comply with the state's requirements. For landscaping, the application complies as proposed. The applicant is proposing to remove some trees surrounding the existing stormwater facility because they're enlarging the area to create a gravel wetland. The existing trees were included as part of the original subdivision approval 9519. However, they were not specifically required as a condition of approval for something like screening. The applicant has proposed 9 new trees along the eastern side of the gravel wetland and is retaining trees along the access driveway. Conservation areas, the parcel does contain some mapped conservation areas. However, none of them are affected by the proposed work. For watershed health, this also complies as proposed. The runoff and erosion control standards for larger developments require a runoff and erosion control checklist, which the applicant has provided. They have also provided greater detail than is required already on their plans. Stated that the parcel contains no mapped wetlands, streams, or watershed protection buffers. That does not mean there aren't wetlands on the parcel, but there aren't any in this area. What follows are findings of fact, conclusions of law, and conditions of approval.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So Chris, I'm going to jump right to proposed condition number 21. That has to do with maintaining access of the recreation path. Can you walk us through what you envision for maintaining access and signage and that type of thing?
I'm actually going to defer that over to Howard from Green Print Partners. They're managing the projects.
I'll go ahead and state my name and address for the record. Howard Killian with Green Print Partners. Address is 17 North State Street, Suite 1400, Chicago, Illinois, 60602.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So walk us through what the plan is for maintaining access and signage and keeping pedestrians safe and students safe and that type of thing.
Great. Okay, so what we have on the plans that'll be going out, the final plans will be going out to contractors to bid, is there's one basin on the south side of the path and one basin on the north side of the path. So each of those work zones will be entirely fenced off, leaving the pathway open and fenced off from any of the work sites. There's no physical work taking place on the path. There will be, so it'll be open off work hours and during the morning and the afternoon for students. The only time that we would have any equipment crossing the path is when the contractor is moving equipment or supplies from the southern area to the northern area, and there'll be gates there. And then the contractor will also be required to have basically a flagger instead of for cars, but for pedestrians to stop anybody going through there. The equipment will cross and then they'll close the gates back up and allow it to move forward. We will have signs that'll state, construction, use caution, and those items on there. So, but again, no work is taking place on the path itself, and the contractor will not be able to use the path for access from the roadway. They'll be coming through the driveway. So, we feel that will be adequately protecting the pedestrians through here.
Okay, and the final plans, what we've proposed for condition number 21, what staff has proposed, is that the final plan shall include a narrative explaining how safe access will be maintained during construction. And am I hearing that that there's a commitment to adhering to that?
Yes, we will adhere to that and put notes on the plan, very detailed step by step for the contractors to adhere to.
Great, okay, thank you. Okay, DRP members, questions?
I'm good.
Hey.
I just, it's sort of a comment, maybe a question, but I just always think it's interesting when we're cutting down trees to put down more, somewhat, not impervious surface, but we're cutting down trees that are doing something already and replacing them with stone. Was there any way to retain any of these trees, or I don't have a good concept of what this is going to look like when it's done from these drawings, I guess. I don't.
Go ahead, Howard, if you'd like.
Yeah, I could answer that. So we are, in order to meet the requirements, we did have to enlarge the basin, which would require the removal. We are adding back 9 additional trees along the western portion of the basin. So we will be putting back a row of additional trees there. The gravel wetlands, actually, the sides will be more natural plantings. So eventually you'll get growth and wildflower colors and items going with that. Again, only the bottom is basically the gravel. And that's just for ease of maintenance, that we're not having to get mowers or anything down into there. It also allows the water to absorb down through there.
By natural plantings, do you mean just what grows in naturally? What's planted by nature?
No, there's a plantings list that goes along with the plans.
Oh, okay. In addition to the trees, there's other lower shrubs and okay.
That are water tolerant.
That makes more sense. Yeah, I understand now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, I did not see a planting schedule in here, or a landscape plan.
Let me
I mean,
find it real.
there's a note that points to a couple trees that say what those are and says typical, but it doesn't really say how many are going to be planted or exactly where.
If I could answer that, we do have, we will be putting in 5 evergreen trees and then, or I'm sorry, 6 evergreen trees and 3 deciduous trees in that area. And then we also have a wetland seeding that'll take place on the side, so it's all seeded.
So is that in the drawings here somewhere that's on the?
I'll have to check on the exact notes. It is. I'll have to zoom in.
So, I mean, there's a note that says there's an 8-foot tall white cedar typical, and you're saying that there's gonna be 6 of those?
Yes, there are 6 of those going in.
And 3 of the
Just deciduous trees.
deciduous, yeah, now deciduous.
Correct.
Is a pretty wide range of species, as I've learned recently on my street.
Right, we would work with the school district to what they're looking for there, and of course also what's available at the time.
Well, I think that my recommendation is that at final plans, there'd be something very specific about what you're gonna be planting that someone can review.
Okay.
That's
That
just
would be
me.
appropriate.
What's
Yeah,
that?
Yeah, to have the specific species listed.
and it's I mean, certainly the school district has the right to state their preference in terms of plantings, but it needs to be compliant with the regulations.
Yeah, we do have a
Correct.
requirement on which species are allowed,
Exactly.
so.
Yeah, normally we would have, well, I mean, there are species listed here, just not quantities. There are also no planting details, which we typically see in an application like this.
So something like.
Yeah, basically all the side slopes get, the new side slopes will be covered with the wildflower mix. But we can provide detail on that to the staff.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna add condition number 22, which will delegate approval to staff to approve the final plans, and the final plans are gonna need to have more detail in terms of species, quantity, planting details, et cetera.
Okay.
So, and I had a couple questions to clarify what I'm seeing on the plan. That I see a line that says PDF, is that some kind of a fence? What does that stand for?
Oh, that is, before we start, construction, the contractor is required to basically outline the project limits so that we, keep all their work and equipment and material within that. So it's a project demarcation fence,
Project demarcation, okay, thank you.
right? So it's only for during construction.
Right, but is that, and I heard, I think one of you two mentioned that there would be a fence that would separate the recreation path from the construction areas?
Correct.
Is that the same kind of, what kind of fence is that? And I don't see that on the plan here.
Yeah, let me find it here.
Or maybe I'm looking on sheet C3, maybe it's on a different plan.
Right, we did not have that specified in that submittal. We did clean that up on a final set of plans.
So,
So we will go through and mark that, the type of fence.
so the PDF is what kind of a fence?
We usually, it's more to keep within limits. It can be a line. We can go with the orange construction fence or the wood slat fence. You know, we'll work with the staff on what's preferred out there.
All right, well, typically we ask you what you're planning on doing and then we approve it or disapprove it.
Right.
The same, would that be the same fence that's going to then be along the side of the recreation path? Separate?
Yes, it'll just be enough to keep anybody, a more secure fence. It won't be flimsy. But we won't be putting in a heavy chain link fence or anything like that.
Okay, as was mentioned, there's an awful lot of traffic along that path. And-
Correct.
And how long is it going to take to build this, to do this construction?
Total time frame from when it starts to end, we only have about 2 months of time period. So it's very limited. Right now, the plan is to have it take place over the summer months, when school's out of session.
So that you'd be starting very soon.
Correct.
As I know Chris knows, the summer vacation is only about 10 weeks long.
Correct.
Starts most any day now.
Right.
And so, you know, I'm really, I have concerns that it's going to happen in the next 10 weeks before school starts. And once school starts, now you're going to have a lot of people there. And even in the summer, that path gets a tremendous amount of use. There's a playground there, there are ball fields there, it's a connection between one set of neighborhoods and another set of neighborhoods. This is I think this is a big deal of protecting kids that are gonna be there when your construction workers are not. And you're gonna have equipment there, you're gonna have open excavations at times, big rocks, piles of dirt. I think it's really important that you go the extra mile here to keep people out of there. And that's why I'm asking what kind of fence. And the follow-up to that is what kind of gate And is it locked?
Yeah, any gate would be secured, yes.
Right, but a gate in a 30-inch high little wood slat fence is not that helpful.
Right. And we fully understand the need to protect the users of the path from any of the work. So we'll work with the school district and the staff to make sure that what we put up is acceptable.
Okay. I mean, these are also pieces of lawn that people are used to walking across kind of directly between point A and point B, so really that fence is, well. All right, we'll have to discuss that. I mean, I also see that there's a stabilized construction entrance right off of the recreation path that's not supposed to have motorized vehicles on it.
That during construction, they will need to cross the path to go over to the dig out the north basin. We are doing a small basin there, and that's just so at that point, again, that's typical that we don't track mud and that across the path at that location.
What kind of equipment will be going across the path?
That little area, I'm assuming, we'll probably have a sort of a backhoe and then possibly a small dump truck
Okay.
across the path.
How will you be preventing damage to the town's recreation path with that?
We will work with the contractor and they are required to make any repairs to the path if there's damage to it.
Okay. And I think this is my last question. I see a line on here that I can't quite read that runs more or less along the path, right about where I would expect the fence north of the path. Does that say gas?
Let me zoom in here. That would be the existing gas service going into the school along that path.
I see. So okay. It doesn't terminate there where it stops.
No, the survey just picked it up within the limits of the work.
Okay. Pete, I think that's all the questions I have.
Okay. DRB members, other questions? Lisa, any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
No, I'm good.
okay. Members of the audience, sir, any questions? Okay. Anybody on Zoom with questions?
We have no other members of the public on Zoom.
Okay. Okay, very good. We're gonna close DP 24-20 at 7:38. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the DRB is gonna go into deliberative session.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Okay, thanks, Scott. The DRB is out of deliberations. It's 8:12 on Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. Is there a motion for DP 24-10? That's you, Scott.
Okay, I'm happy to make the motion. As authorized by WDB 6.6.3, I, Scott Riley, move that the Williston Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and all accompanying materials, including the recommendations of the town staff and the advisory boards required to comment on this application by the Williston Development Bylaw, and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of June 11th, 2024, accept the findings of fact and conclusions of law for DP 24-10, and approve this discretionary permit subject to the conditions of approval above. This approval authorizes the applicant to file final plans, obtain approval of these plans from staff, and then seek an administrative permit for the proposed development, which must proceed in strict conformance with the plans on which this approval is based.
Thank you, Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
John Hemmelgarn seconds. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Yay or nay? Nate?
Yay?
Lisa?
Yay.
Scott?
Yay.
Dave Turner has recused himself. John Hemmelgarn?
Yay.
The chair is a yay. 5 in favor, none opposed, 1 member recused himself. Motion carries. Is there a motion for DP 20-18.3?
Yes, as authorized by WDB 6.6.3, I, David Turner, move that the Williston Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and all accompanying materials, including the recommendations of the town staff and the advisory boards required to comment on this application by the Williston Development Bylaw, and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of June 11th, 2024, accept the findings of fact and conclusions of law for DP 20-18.3 and approve the discretionary permit subject to the conditions of approval above. This approval authorizes the applicant to file final plans, obtain approval of these plans from staff, and then seek administrative permit for the proposed development, which must proceed in strict conformance with the plans on which this approval is based.
Thank you, Dave. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Nate Andrews, second. Any discussion? Yay or nay? Nate?
Yay?
Lisa?
Yay.
Scott? Dave?
Yay.
John Hemmelgarn has recused himself. The chair is a yay. 5 in favor, none opposed, 1 recusal. Okay, is there a motion for DP 24-20?
Yes. As authorized by WDB 6.6.3, I, Nathan Andrews, move that the Williston Development Review Board, having reviewed the application submitted and all accompanying materials, including the recommendations of the town staff and the advisory boards required to comment on this application by the Williston Development Bylaw, and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at the public hearing of June 11th, 2024, accept the findings of fact and conclusions of law for DP 20-24, and approve this discretionary permit subject to the conditions of approval above. This approval authorizes the applicant to file final plans, obtain approval of these plans from staff, and then seek an administrative permit for the proposed development, which must proceed in strict conformance with the plans on which this approval is based. We will be adding the following 2 conditions. Condition number 22, final plans shall include a construction safety management plan in compliance with WDB 17.15, including security fencing and identifying material and equipment storage areas. Condition number 23, the applicant shall provide a landscaping plan with a planting detail sheet. The plan must comply with the species requirements in WDB 23.7.
Great, thank you, Nate. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Dave Turner seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. Yay or nay? Nate?
Yay?
Lisa?
Yay.
Scott?
Yay.
Dave?
Yay.
John?
Yay.
Chair is a yay, 6 in favor, none opposed, motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes of 5:28 as read?
I move that we approve the meeting minutes of May 28th, 2024 as written.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, yay or nay? Nate?
Yay?
Lisa?
Yay.
Scott? Dave Turner?
Yay.
John?
Yay.
And I was not present, so I will not vote. 5 in favor, none opposed, motion carries. Is there anything else to bring forth tonight to this meeting? No. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Perfect.